A story of the mummy in Grandma's attic. This story is about a mummy in Grandma's house.
You're not going to believe what I saw in the attic,
Mark said, his voice shaking with excitement as he rushed into the warm, dimly lit living room.
His sister Rachel looked up from her book, curiosity piqued by the urgency in his tone. Their grandma's old house, filled with dusty trinkets and forgotten memories, had always been a source of fascination for them. They had arrived the previous evening, eager to sort through the clutter before it was solved.
The attic door, creaking open on its ancient hinges, revealed a space that had been untouched for years. Cobwebs hung like forgotten lace from the rafters, and the smell of dust and age wafted down the stairs. Mark had been exploring the dusty shelves when he found a large, ornate chest. It was bound with rusted metal and adorned with intricate carvings that looked eerily like ancient Egyptian hieroglyphs. Rachel followed him up the stairs, her heart racing at the thought of hidden treasures. The chest was heavy, but together they managed to drag it to the center of the room. The lock was corroded, but Mark's pocket knife proved surprisingly effective. With a final twist, the lock gave way with a sharp click. Rachel held her breath as Mark lifted the lid, revealing a mummy, wrapped in tattered linen, staring back at them with vacant, unblinking eyes. They stepped back, their hearts in their throats. The mummy lay in a bed of straw, its arms folded over its chest. The bandages were a faded brown, and the face was contorted into a silent scream. Rachel felt a strange sadness wash over her, wondering who this person had been. Mark, however, couldn't contain his excitement. He reached out to touch the ancient fabric, but Rachel's hand shot out to stop him.
"Don't," she warned, her voice a harsh whisper. "We don't know what might happen."
Ignoring her, Mark's fingers brushed against the mummy's wrist. The moment his skin made contact with the ancient wrappings, the room grew cold. Rachel's eyes widened in horror as the mummy's hand twitched. The siblings stared at each other, frozen in place, as the mummy began to slowly sit up, the ancient bandages crackling with every movement. The mummy's eyes snapped open, revealing deep sockets filled with a glowing, malevolent light. Rachel's grip on Mark's arm tightened as they watched the creature's jaw unhinge with an unnatural crack, revealing a mouth filled with sharp, pointed teeth. The mummy's gaze fixed on them, and the air grew heavy with a sense of ancient, unspeakable power. They stumbled backward, knocking over a stack of dusty boxes. The mummy stood, its brittle bones groaning in protest. Rachel's mind raced, trying to remember any tales of curses or ancient warnings she might have heard about disturbing the dead. The creature took a step forward, and the floorboards creaked beneath its weightless tread. They had to get out now. Rachel grabbed Mark's hand and they bolted for the stairs, their footsteps echoing through the attic. Behind them, the mummy lurched to its feet, the sound of its movements like a chorus of whispers from a long-dead civilization. The siblings didn't dare to look back, their breaths coming in ragged gasps as they descended the stairs. Once they reached the safety of the living room, Rachel slammed the attic door shut. They leaned against it, their hearts racing as the muffled noises of mummy's pursuit grew fainter. "We have to tell someone," Rachel panted. "Call the museum or the police or—" But Mark was already shaking his head. "No one will believe us. We have to deal with this ourselves." Rachel looked at him, her eyes wide with fear. "What are we going to do?" He took a deep breath, his hands still trembling from the encounter. "We have to set it free," Mark said firmly. "We have to return it to where it came from." Rachel nodded, knowing that her brother was right. They had disturbed something that was never meant to be awakened, and now it was up to them to make things right. Their mission was clear, but the path ahead was fraught with danger. They had no idea how to return the mummy to its resting place, or how to combat the ancient power it had brought with it. As they sat in the quiet of the living room, the muffled noises from above grew silent, and they couldn't shake the feeling that the creature was biding its time, waiting for them. The next morning, Rachel and Mark sat cross-legged on the faded rug in Grandma's study,
surrounded by books, yellowed maps, and trinkets that now seemed less charming and more ominous. Mark flipped open a thick, leather-bound journal they'd found hidden beneath a false panel in the bookshelves. Scrawled across the first page in trembling handwriting were the words, "To awaken what sleeps is to invite judgment. Guard the heart of Khepri, or all shall rot in light." Rachel looked up, eyes wide. "The heart of Khepri? That sounds like an artifact." Mark nodded grimly. "And I think it's still in that chest."